name's Ralph and welcome back to the channel. It's my time, let's go. Today I'm just going to fill you in on a little bit of some things about lifter blocks. Now the old vintage bikes used some different kinds of lifter blocks and they all had their little bit of idiosyncrasies about them. Sometimes guys are looking at them in swap meets and they're laying in boxes or whatever, you know, and you don't really know what you're looking at. So I'm hoping to help you out on what you can use and what you can't use and what years they'll go through. Try to pass on a little bit of what I know to try and help you out there. So let's get on with it and check out these lifter blocks. So throughout the years we basically had three sort of different kinds of lifter blocks that you have to watch out for. We had the early knuckle one that ran from 36 up to about 54. We have the one, this style one that ran from 55 to 76. And this style one here that ran from 77 up. As you can see, these two look really similar, and they are very similar. And there's only subtle differences in them that you have to watch out for. The subtlety lies in the tops of the block. And when you look down in here on these pieces, they're actually countersunk, which takes a screw like this. Now those only ran up to about 76, and they also used one like this, which was a 6-point type of screw, and you can see that the taper involved on the bottom of the screw. They also had a 12-point screw, but I don't have one here. So those were all the same. But in 1977, they proceeded to change things again. They went to these small star type screws. I guess people call them star. They're a 12-point screw actually, with a flat bottom. And in some instances they use the Allen screw, which they use up into the twin cams today. But these blocks, being different, it has a little countersink there. You can see it. You can see it, and it's just the size for the screw to fit inside of it. Not bigger. So those have to be very specific when you're using them. The other point that was very important to bring up was your threads per inch, and seeming like your push rods always have to do with threads per inch, is that the threading on them. The early cases had a 1/4 inch by 24 threads per inch screw, which was odd in today's standards. Today's standards, we use a 1/4 by 20 inch threads per inch screw. So in 76 is the end period here. Although you can take your coarse screw, which is very similar, if you lay them beside each other, they're very similar there. But when you start trying to thread that in, it will start and it will go in, and the next thing you know, you're going to tear up all your threads in there. So don't be fooled by it starting in there. One last little note we can talk about while we're here was the early pushrod tubes. The early knuckle ones had them like this, and they had cork washers in them. You know, these were run for many years. You soak them in a little bit of oil, soften them up, throw them in there. Your pushrod tube would sit on it, and that would seal it up, the pressure of the springs. And you can see here where it fits in, it just kind of fit in that area as it was compressed down in there. But that's the early way that they went. Now that stayed pretty well through with those kind until we got up I think into the shovels. And I'm not sure about some of the panhead years. Some of the panhead years I think too changed from the knuckle sort of types. But when they got to the shovels, they had this type. Now the shovels, it was important to note that even though the blocks can switch back and forth in different applications, having everything with it, you cannot switch the rings that go in here to seal them. I often use with the shovel heads what they call a blue Teflon type of ring. And they sit right in here, and when your push rod goes against it, it's held in place, so it can't get out. So you can use those type of rings in place of the cork washers in both applications. But when you get into the 77 and up, you can't no longer use these kind of rings, because the bottom of the push rod and the top, and I don't have a top for the early model, but this is where the O-ring fits up in the top into your rocker box. And this is the bottom, and as you can see, there's a ridge all the way around it. You can actually use either kind of O-ring seal on these push rods. They have what they call the quad seal, which was sort of like that, had little indentations in it all around. Or you could use the regular sort of O-ring type which is used up to today in all applications. Now, I have heard them say that you can run cork seals on the O-ring type of tubes and get away with it when they compress and seal in there, which makes sense to me. They can't go anywhere. The tubes are kept in place by the lifter blocks, and everything stays where it should. So going back in a pinch that you can put them in there and run the cork seals, and that they'll compress enough for you to do that. But if you got the way to do it right, then do it right. So they say that the actual pan shovel, the early lifters like these, the solid lifters, these type, can actually be used in these type of blocks when converting to a solid lifter application. Where these oil holes are in here, and you'll see them in your gasket holes, where they are in the case, you're going to have to drill the case and put a 8 by 32 thread Allen head into it. So it's not very deep, it's very small, but you just drill into them oil passages that are coming up there and block them off with a little Allen screw, and you got solid lifters without all the extra oil coming all over the place. So while we're talking about it, a lot of times you can say, oh, just go do that, just go drill some holes in your case and block those oil line holes off. I got a set of cases here, and I'm going to do it with you to show you that it's not that big a deal and that you can do it yourself without a bunch of special tools. You will have to have a tap and die set, or a friend that has one, or an 8/32 drill. You can go to the any of your auto parts store or anything and buy that 8/32 drill, so you can use that. This one's been cut down a little bit, broke off, and I've had to reuse it. Really, what you have to watch out for now is the angles of the holes. And by using a 9/64 drill, which is just a touch bigger than what they suggest for a tap drill size, we're able to slide this right in there, and you can see that those holes don't go straight down like you would think they might go. This one here also on an angle. So if you take your 9/32 drill, or 9/64 drill, and you can clean up that hole, but I wouldn't do too much to it because it is out to that size already. So what we're going to do is put a little cutting oil in here. You can see it coming out both the holes there. And we're just going to get our tap in there. Again, being mindful of the angle. That's where we're wanting to go, right in there like that. So getting it to bite and know you're on the right angle is the hardest thing at first. Just back and forth a little bit, breaking the chip. Now if you had a nice sharp tap, it would certainly probably make things go a little bit easier. Turn that a little. But just take your time, moving it back and forth to break the chips. And just take it down there a little ways. It only matters how deep your screw is. Your little 8/32 screw that you're going to put in there, the set screw. And there. Now the other one, like I said, is at a different angle again. You can see where it's sticking up. So I'm going to turn it a little bit so I can get at it and be mindful of the angle that you're going. If you had a nice new tap with a sharp end on it, it would make it a lot easier. Mine, where it's been broke off and reground, is a little big at the end. Let's see where we're going. Clean my tap off and see where we're going. Yeah, I'm looking like I'm a little too shallow on that. Have to go by feel. It is one of those things. Just want to check the angle again before I put too much pressure on it to see. I've got a little bird up there now because I got threads in it. I can't slide that original one down there, but you can see there's the angle. I'm going to give her another little shot there. If you're only in a couple threads and you find that you're way off, that's the time to try and correct it. Because once it starts feeding, you can't do much with it then. I wish I had a sharper tap. Just feeling like I'm offline a little bit. But we are getting down in there. So about there. Yeah, I think we're about in line there. Sometimes I check too many times, but I want to be sure. And there we go. There's 2 tiny holes in it. We'll just touch up the case just a little tiny bit there. And just a little tiny bit on there. Just enough to take the burrs off. So now that we have our holes there like that, you need a little set screw. I don't fortunately have one, but I do have a little 832 screw. That will show you that that just screws down in there. So you can set your set screw down in there below that surface. And it should be the same for up here. Exactly the same up here. So those are what we're looking for. So now you've got some chips in there and you're going, how do I get the chips out? You just take some compressed air, make sure this plug is in. And if this one's not in here, hit your finger over it. And you can go in the top oil hole here. And you can see the oil coming out of there. Pull this one out. We can also go down through here, if that plugs out. And just plug our oil hose in. See that it's blowing. So then you can blow those holes right out. You do that a couple times, eliminating some of the holes and blow it out, and you'll have any chips or anything that's in there out of there. So I hope that helps you figure out how to plug those holes on the early cases like that if you're going to turn into solid lifters. It really makes a difference for your oiling system and you don't get all that excess oil all over the place. I'm glad I could help you out and let you see how to do it and see it done, and now we all know, not a big deal, but you know how to do it. Okay, let's get on with stuff. And there you go. And they say they can be set up to work in there, but it can be done in a pinch. So if you want to run at a set of these and want to run an early set of solids like that, you can certainly do it. So I hope you enjoyed our talk today on push rods and a little bit on the lifter blocks, and just give you a kind of little history of some vintage machines and the parts and pieces that can interchange between them. That's always invaluable. There's not that many parts left out there, so it's important for people to know what they are and how they can use them, if they can swap them back and forth, which in many cases they can. That was one of the big things about Harley Davidson, that parts interchanged for over 20 years. Made it great for riders and the ability to get your bike fixed anywhere you were in the country. It broke down, it didn't matter. Somebody usually had a part for your bike. Not like that today, unfortunately. It's too bad. But if you enjoyed our little talk today, like, subscribe, ring the bell, do those kind of things. It helps us to grow, and we appreciate every bit of it. And stick around for our next video. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope you enjoy the next.